Hey everybody, Andrew here. A wee while ago, probably 2 weeks ago, nearly even 3 weeks ago at this stage, El Cigart in, and I'll put the address up wherever, in Greece sent me over a mod called the Lernaia Hydra, or the Lernaia Hydra, as Dimitri the Vape in Greek would say it, and of course he would know he's Greek. But for me, Southside Dublin, Lernaia Hydra, so that's what it's going to be called. So this mod arrived along with a couple of other things, and I'd heard about it, I'd seen a couple of other reviews about it, and so I was absolutely delighted to get it because this is very much a high-end mod, and this is it. And this, obviously it's this part here, and this is the matte version of it. It's available in polished and in matte, and this is also the 22mm version of it, whereas it's also available as a 23mm version. So two sizes and two different finishes. Now, it comes with the tube extensions. That at the moment is in 18500. If you take the ring off, the top ring off, then that's 18350, and then there's another slightly longer ring to put on to get it to an 18650. And it's a fabulous thing, you know, I mean, look, beautiful gold button at the end of it, and frankly it works like a treat. It delivers the power really, really well. Also with this I got a couple of other items, and they are the Zorbas, or Zorba, this here, which essentially is a variable wattage or variable power unit that can actually go onto it. Now this can actually work in two ways. It can go onto any other mod because it's got a normal 510 connection at the bottom of it, or you can screw this off and then it'll go on like a hybrid, if you like, onto one of these tubes here. So that's terrific as well. So we'll go through that also. And then in addition to that, I got this here, which is an airflow control. And this again can go onto any mod, any mechanical mod, and what that then does is it gives you airflow control. So in other words, if you have a mod and you put something flush onto it, and that atomizer needs to be able to draw air from the bottom, but your mod doesn't have airflow on it, you screw it down tight, no air comes up, that's it, you just can't use that atomizer on that mod. Whereas if you put something like this in between, what it does is then it draws its air in from the sides here, and it just makes it, you know, very easy to use on any mod at all. So again, really handy. So we'll have a look at that too. And finally, there was also some other bits and pieces that came, which were these rings here. And these rings are basically for fitting it onto other mods. And again, I will go through that as well. So there's a lot to talk about within this, so I think we'll get straight into it, get down close and show you the bits and pieces and take it from there. So here are the pieces that I received. Now, just starting from one side and going to the other, or let's start in the middle. Lernaia Hydra. In the middle, this is basically in 18350. We then have an extension here for 18500 and another extension here which brings you up to 18650. Beside that, so that's the Lernaia Hydra. Beside that we have the airflow control unit, which I'll go through. Here we have the Zorbas, which is the variable wattage, variable power device, which can either work on any mod, as it is in this configuration, because it's got a 510 at the bottom, or you can remove this piece here and basically put this little silver screw onto the end of it, and then that means that will screw directly into the Lernaia Hydra. And then on the back here we basically have rings for GG mods, so that this will go onto this, which will then go directly onto a you know, a GG mod, and again I'll go through those shortly as well. So best thing is I'll move all the stuff out of the way except for the mod itself, and we'll go through that first. So before I go into you know, the rings and how they work, let's just have a bit of a look at the Lernaia Hydra itself. This one here is in matte. It's also available in polished. Now this matte it's almost like a semi-matte, because it's not one of the really deep mattes, you know, where you can almost actually feel the grain. It's somewhere in between, and it's a finish that I haven't really come across on any of my other mods, but it's one that I must say I really like, because it means that you don't pick up all of the fingerprints and, you know, the stuff like that on it. So it always looks good, but at the same time it has got a sort of a slightly polished-y sort of feel to it. So on the front there we've got Lernaia Hydra, or Lernaia Hydra, and above that you may just be able to see that there's a graphic of a serpent, and that is the Lernaia Hydra, which was the multi-headed serpent that used to hang out in the swamps of Lerna, and that basically if you cut off one of its heads, loads more heads came back. So nasty piece of work altogether. So you can look that up in Greek mythology if you're into that. And then going around, we look on the back, we can see we've got a serial number there as well. Also looking at it, you know, a little bit further down, we have our switch here, which we'll go into more detail in. On the bottom there we have got, let's see if we can just, there, that's the one part that does actually pick up marks. It says, and I can't even begin to try and pronounce what it says on it, but it's got the Elsigart logo in the middle, and then it's also got the name of the modder on it, which is Artopoulos, I think his name is. That's his second name. And then on the other part here we've got whatever it is that it says, which translates, according to Dimitri, the vape in Greek, as passion for technology. Looking at the side here, you can see we've got vent holes there for if you have a disaster of a battery inside and things go horribly wrong, so that it can do its venting there. And then at the top, we've got a floating pin at the top there, and you can see we've got air channels here coming out of the side. Now, one of the things here you can also see is that this top cap that goes on, or the top piece that goes on, is really quite narrow here. And this is one of the reasons why the guys who made this decided to reverse thread everything, because you may have seen that in other reviews. Everything is, except the button on this, is reverse threaded. So normally, if you're tightening something, certainly with me, you know, basically I'll turn my right hand away to actually tighten something. But what happens here is when you turn your right hand away from you, it actually unscrews. So that is what basically happens with the tubes on this. Now this is something that after, you know, initially it kind of wrecks your head a bit, because it's just counterintuitive, because you're always going to want to be, you know, just doing it as you do with all your mods. But in this particular case, you have to go the other way. So if you're tightening up, you're basically using your right hand to come towards you, and that's actually going to tighten it up. So that means that the thread is the opposite on this than it is on a mod. So that when what you will do is you'll screw your mod in the normal way into the top, as you would on anyone. But if you over tighten it, if you try to over tighten it, what's going to happen is this is going to start undoing itself. So his reason for doing this was that he didn't want people to have the problem that when they screw their mod on tight at the top, that this continuously ends up tightening this top little piece here, so that it means it's going to be impossible to actually get it off whatever tube you have it stuck on at any given time. So that's his reasoning behind it. Now I can see the logic of that. It's a bit frustrating at the beginning, to say the least, but do you know what? After a while you get used to it. The other thing is if you don't have stacks and stacks of mods, and you know you're only using one or two, you're just after a while, and I've found this has happened with me on this. that when I pick this one up, I just automatically know what way I need to actually turn it to actually get the thing undone. Now, the other thing is these little channels at the top are actually quite handy for getting a grip on this to be able to unscrew it. So let's take this off here. This is in 18350 mode here at the moment. And let's look at this top cap here. And sorry, I have some juice on it from putting that addy onto it. Now inside you've got a floating pin. Now the floating pin basically comes from this piece here, this silver plated, it's probably silver plated brass, I'm not 100% sure to tell you the truth. That basically pushes through to that side there. So if I was to, let's just screw this down, I can actually pull that pin out there. Now we can see right the way through. So what happens is, if you have this in here, and let's push it in a fair bit like that, and then if I get a mod, so I'll get the K-Fun again, and I screw that on, it's hitting resistance there now, but if I keep screwing, you'll see that that pin at the end there starts pushing out, right? So that pushes out like that. And then what you have is you have this little screw here, which essentially sorts out, you know, because the one thing we've all found at this stage with batteries is different batteries are all meant to be the same length and size. They're not. So you can use this to adjust battery rattle and make sure that you're getting a good contact on the inside. So I think that all works very, very well. Let's just take this off again. And yeah, that's basically the top part. Now, before I take this off, one of the truly great things about this button is, well, first of all, that it's like no other button in terms of how it goes up and down. It's not using a normal spring, and I'll try and show you now what it is. But the other great thing about it is the locking mechanism. So it's now locked, it's now unlocked. So it's a matter of, it's not even a quarter of a turn, it's just a tiny little turn, and you get a nice little click. So there we are, and it's working, little click, and it's not working. So that's essentially how it works. So simple, but so brilliant. So let's take this off. And we can see inside here we've got a silver plated contact at the bottom, and if I unlock it here, and let's see if we can see this, there we go, there's the throw on it. So that's it moving up and down there to make contact, and then with a bit of a turn, try and push it, doesn't move at all. So really smart. The initial ones of these came out with brass on the bottom, and now they're gold plated, and that's what it looks like there. Really terrific. So I would say, of certainly any of the buttons that I've ever tried, this could be setting the standard, really, because it's just better than anything else that I've ever come across. So let's try and take this apart. What we need to do is basically push it up so this knurled, our silver plated screw there is popping up. So what we can do then is just unscrew that. Now, to be honest, I've never had this apart before, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen. So let's... okay, so this seems to come out of the bottom. Whoops! This seems to come out of the bottom, as it just did. And that's what's come out. So, if we look on the inside... Well, let's look at the bottom here. And I think this is... this kind of shows what's going on. What's at the bottom here is... Just clean it off just a little wee bit here. Rather than it being a spring, it's this metal. It's like a sort of a metal sheet which has been, you know, formed into this shape here. So that obviously is what gives it the softness in terms of, you know, when you're actually pushing on it. And then when we look inside here, this is what it slots into. So that little bar there is actually going into this piece in here. Now, so we can now see what's happening. You've got the slot there on either side. So when that is like that, this little bar here that slots into that can only go down so far. But if you can see this, when I actually go to turn this, actually it's the other way around. If you look there, this can only go down so far at this stage. This can only go down to there. Okay? Now if I take this out, and if you look in those little slots, when I actually turn it, those slots have now become deeper. So that means that when you push the button in, it can go down further and make contact. So that is the position there where it'll fire, and that is the position there where it won't fire. So fire, won't fire. So that's what's actually keeping the contact away, this little barrier when you have it there. So very, very clever. Really, really works well. Let's put these tubes together. In every case, the tube that has the logo on it is going to form part of the mod. So on its own it's the 18350, and then we add other bits to it. Just before we go any further, I think you can, if you can see in here, you can see the level of detail and engineering within it. These are really quite thick threads at the bottom, but actually when you go to the other end, it's completely different. These are very, very fine threads. Now, as I said, in every case, it's reverse threaded except for the button, which is just normal threaded. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to put this on. Normal threading means you basically put it in and you, if I can hold it, and you turn it that way away from you. Reverse threading is turn it towards you. So in this case I'm going from 18350, let's just have a look at it as an 18350. So again, this is a reverse threaded top on it, and because they're quite fine, you have to take your time about just getting them nicely lined up. So let's just put that on there, and there we are, 18350. And if I can just find my calipers, let's see what height it is. Found them. My new ones, by the way, dead fancy, got in Aldi. Aldi's a wonderful place for picking these things up every now and again. So let's just see, this is 18350, and it is saying to me 61.24 millimeters in that particular height there. Okay, and again, remembering to reverse. So to reverse, you're turning this away. We can take the top cap off, and right hand coming towards me to actually screw it on. There we go. That's 18500. Let's put the top on here. And let's see what the height is on this one here. Is 75.74 millimeters. So 76 millimeters. And to be honest, that's the size that I've been using it on, because although I have found that the 18350s seem to last really quite well in it, but I tend to use 18500s. So let's take this off. Take this off, and we'll put on the 18650 tube. Again, remembering to turn it towards myself like that. And there we are in 18650. Put the top on here. And size wise, what have we got in 18650? We are coming in at, what it's saying is 91.5 millimeters. Hang on a second, I'm going into the little slot at the top there. Yeah, about 91.5 millimeters, that height there. Looking good. Okay, let's put on a mod onto this. This is a K-Fun Nano, or a K-Fun with a Nano kit on it. And we just screw this on. And as I showed before, as you screw this in, that pin at the end pushes itself out. So that is now screwed on. And then we have this here to sort out the battery rattle. So I have this in 18500. Here's an 18500 battery. I'll pop this in and we may well get a rattle. Little bit of a rattle. So what we need to do is take that off. Give that about one turn for the moment, and we'll see whether or not that's enough. That might be a bit too much. Pretty much there, so we just need a sort of a quarter of a turn just to finish it off, and that should be that. So turn it to there. Screw it back on, and as I said, you do get used to this reverse threading lark. But as you can see what happened there, when I went to screw that too tight, it started undoing the actual mod. So the easiest thing is these little holes here. If you actually put your fingers in there, that means that you can actually get it to tighten, you know, as you'd like. So there we go. In 18500. And it works a dream. And if I pull it back a little bit there, kind of looks pretty as well, you know. Now to the Zorba, or the Zorbas. There's a little bit of white something on this which is driving me mad, and I can't get it off. I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, there we go, number 351. As I mentioned earlier on, this can actually just go straight on like that. And this is the VW, so variable wattage or variable power head on it, which actually goes up to 22 watts. But equally as well, there it is going on to a Nemesis. Well, we'll have to screw this back a little bit here. Put that on like that. And as ever with a Nemesis, then you back the button off. Screw that down like that, and there it is on a Nemesis. With the Zorbas, as you can see, it is you can get it both in polished and matte, as far as I know, and the only real hint of what's going on there is this little LED light, which I'll show you now shortly how that actually works. So that is it when you just use the bottom that's already set onto it, the 510 connector, right? But what you can do is you can take that off, and you can actually see the gubbins inside the electronics, which is actually sorting all of this lot out. So in a case like that, where you want to then use it as a hybrid, what you can do is take this off, and then with the Zorbas here you also get a little silver nut, or silver plated nut, which goes onto the bottom like that. Now again, as ever with these things, it's a case of, you know, you need to basically see what length that should be. Now as it is at the moment, that isn't long enough. So what I need to do is take that off, and I need to give that a bit more length, so let's try that there. Oops. And screw that on there. Oh, almost. So now I just need to tighten it up just a tiny bit. That's probably enough there. And then pop this on. And there we go. Pull this back a little bit. So that's now the 18500 with the Zorbas on. So that has now become a regulated VW, so variable wattage or variable power device. We control the wattage and the setting within this from the button below. So basically what you do is the blue lights will show you what you're at, the red lights will show you what you're setting it to. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 watts. So that's set to 10 watts at the moment. Now if I wanted to change that to say 15 watts, what I can do is go do the same process again, but basically hold my finger down at the end. So I go 1, 2, 3, goes through that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 watts as it is at the moment. Hold it down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's now set to 15 watts. And the way we can tell it's set to 15 watts is we go back to the first stage again, and we basically press it 3 times, hold it down, and then the blue light is going to count off how many watts it's set to. So it should count off to 15. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And there we go, it's set to 15 watts. So that's really, really quite simple. The only issue with this is that, and this will hold the memory of that 15 watts. So if you take it off, you change the battery or whatever, it's going to retain that memory that you want it set to 15 watts. But the only area, which is slightly off at the moment on this, and this may be something that they can sort out in a firmware upgrade or whatever, is that if you go to press the button for a period of time and then don't press it again, so in other words, you're not doing your full 3 press to get your information. The next time you actually go to reset it or get your information, it's going to memorize the first press, so it will actually only need 2 presses afterwards. So this can be a bit sort of confusing. So if I go 1 like that, and then if I try and do my 1, 2, 3, and I go 1, 2, 3, and hold it down, nothing's happening because it's sort of in mid-sequence. So this is kind of a bit of a pain. Right, so now we come to the bigger issue with the Zorbas, which is a fantastic thing. It really, really is. But one of the areas where it does fall down, and as I said, that they are looking to try and work it out, and that is that if you have a 510 on an atomizer, which is of a certain length, when you go to screw it in, because we haven't got an adjustable pin in here, it's basically not going to sit flush. And yeah, for any people, especially with a mod as pretty as this one, you want everything to sit flush, so it's just not going to do it. But there are other atomizers out there. Let me see if I can find one that will actually sit flush. Let me have a look at this one here. Not sure if this one will. It's the Nautilus. Pretty close. That's the Nautilus on it. So you wouldn't have so much of an issue with that one. Okay, here's the flashy vapor. No, that's being left a gap there. Okay, here's is with a striker, dripper. That's not bad. Could go a little bit further, but not bad at all. So that's it with the striker on it. So anyway, look, it is an issue for some things. So they may be addressing that in the future, but this brings us perhaps to the next thing that I got with it, which is this. And this is the airflow control. Now, with many things, they are absolutely fine with the airflow, because you've got, for instance, on a K-Fun, it's coming in from there. Obviously, with a dripper, it's coming in from the side. On the flashy vapor, it's coming in from the side there. So a lot of atomizers that are out there, it's coming in from the side. But for those where it actually needs to draw it from the bottom, basically what you can do is get something like this. And what this does, now in this case it's going to be able to draw the air in from the sides there, but in this case, if you put, let's pretend on this there was airflow required from the bottom. When you actually screw this on here, what you can then do is adjust the airflow by turning this like this, which is terrific. So we'll talk about that again in a second, but this has got a pin in it which is adjustable. So on this here, which doesn't have a pin that's adjustable, what you can then do is use this, put it onto the K-fun like that, and then use this and screw that on. And essentially what that means is you can get it more flush than you would have done otherwise. This thing naturally sits a bit above anyway, but to me that looks better like that than it does without that there when you actually just have that gap. So there it is, the Hydra with the Zorbas, with the air control ring, with a K-fun Nano sitting on top of it. So just to look at this airflow control a little bit closer, you can see inside you've got two holes there, and then on the outside you have got a hole there and a hole there. And essentially what happens is that the more they are lined up to the holes on the inside, the more airflow you're going to get. So in other words, at that point there, you are going to get maximum airflow, and then as you turn it away, you're going to get less airflow. So again, this as a unit, I think it's a great thing just to have in your kit. So just looking at what's inside there, we got brass, we've also got an adjustable pin down there as well, which you can see, and then that's surrounded by stainless steel. So that's the airflow control. So here we have adapter rings. Now these I think cost €15. I'm not sure if that is each or as a pack. I think they come as a pack, but you need to check that out. And basically what they are is for the Stealth and the GGTS mods, and essentially what it does is it allows you to basically go from, in this case here, we're going from 22mm on that up onto a 23mm with the threading for one or other of those. Unfortunately, I don't actually have either of those Golden Greek mods. Wish I had, but I don't. So essentially what you can do is for the Stealth and for the GGTS, you can basically get adapter rings, so that this becomes a hybrid on those particular tubes. So there you go, a lot covered in that. So what do I think about it? As I said, I've had it on the go for a couple of weeks now because I really wanted to be sure, you know, what I was saying was really, you know, what I felt about it. And the only way to really do that was to actually live with it for a while. And I love it. To be honest, I love it. I think there are some things on it, you know, which I might prefer on other things, but generally speaking, as a package, I absolutely love it. In terms of its looks, it just looks, it looks fantastic. It feels fantastic. Whatever it is about this particular finish that they have on the matte version of it, and I'm really pleased that I got the matte version of it. There's just something about it. You know, from a tactile point of view, it's really, really nice. Size-wise, I think it's great. We do know that the top part on it is really small, and you know, everything is reverse threaded, which is something that some people have an issue with. For me, the reverse threading is, I don't have an issue with it. I've got used to it. And I think that's the whole point. You need to just get used to it, and that's why I'm glad I lived with it for a while. you know, but the overall size of it I think is fantastic as an 18500. You've got this thing at the end, this button, which is just, it is in a class of its own. Absolutely fantastic. So for the mod itself is just, it's brilliant. The adjustment for the battery rattle, obviously in some things like a Nemesis, you know, you can actually adjust it by turning the button at the bottom. You can't do that in this case because of the setup of the button. But if you're using all the same batteries, you know, you bought 4, you know, E-Fests or, you know, AWIMRs or whatever they happen to be, if they're all the same make, they're going to be pretty much the same size. So you don't have to go through the rigmarole of adjusting that thing every single time. It should be pretty much right every time. The other thing, of course, is that you can actually, you know, load the battery from the bottom, take it out from the bottom, put it in from the top, put the switch back in again. Now I don't know whether the guy who makes this would recommend that you actually do your loading from the end, but if you do it gently, I can't see that it would do any harm at all. So yeah, as a mod, I think it is just in every way absolutely fantastic. And as to the Zorbas, listen, it's a great thing. It's a great idea. It's great that it can go on in hybrid mode into the Lernaia. It is great that you can use it like this in any mechanical mod. Absolutely fantastic. So as an idea, I think it's exceptional. The only issue is, and by the way, programming it as well to whatever watts you want to set it to is really quite easy. So there's no big issue in doing that at all. So the only real problem here is this bit here. The fact that it's not a floating pin in there. So it means that it's, you know, you're going to get some Atties that just aren't going to fit. And the only way around that is if you have something like this, the airflow control thing, which I think is fantastic in itself, by the way. You know, that you can put that in to it, which is going to add some depth to it, but that's going to give you, because there's a little bit of play within this, that's going to, you know, allow you get it a little bit closer in, you know, and flush to the thing. But in the end, what you're doing is you're adding 2 extra rings here anyway, you know, 2 extra gaps. So I'm not sure that that really helps, you know, from the aesthetics point of view. But, you know, who knows, if they actually manage to upgrade this and get a floating pin in that, then that is just absolutely the business. So this is available in 2 places at the moment. I'm sure it's going to end up going into a number of other places as well. But it's available from atmosstore.gr, and which is in Europe, which is in Greece. And then it's also available in Vapor Venue, which I think is in the States. So again, I'll put it wherever. So the prices of these things, not cheap. But then again, we are talking high end. I mean, this is really up at the upper end of everything. So for the actual Lernaia Hydra itself, this thing with, this is obviously an 18500, but also with the other tube that brings it up to 18650, that's €140. Now that as a price, it's at the top end. Then again, you know, if you look at another one of the great mods out there, the Nemesis, that's €130 I think at the moment. And there are quite a few other ones at that sort of level. So the mod on its own is fairly expensive, not the most expensive, but beautifully made, and, you know, with a switch which is absolutely leading the charge as far as I'm concerned. To get this and the Zorbas is €200. That's what it works out at. To get the 2 of those and to get the airflow control as well, it is €240. So that's for that lot, is €240. So 140 if you're doing it separately, 140 for the Hydra, plus 120 gives you 260, plus 60 for the airflow control gives you €320. So that's if you're buying them individually. If you buy them all together, it's 240, and 240 is, you know, €240 that is. I'm not sure what a Pravari is at the moment, but it's probably not far off that. So really, if you were to say, you know, A Provari, amazing thing. I love my Provari to bits. I'll never ever sell it. It's only variable voltage. And obviously with the Provari you can't be doing sort of mad sub-ohm coiling or anything like that, because the electronics in it just won't let you do it. The other thing is, I suppose, with the Provari as well, is that, you know, you're buying either the mini with an extension tube, so you can go 350 up to a 500, or you're buying the full length one. And to buy those extra tubes costs extra money. So really, it's one of the big things about this. Not only is it how good it looks, but it's the versatility of the package. You know, the quality of the mod and the versatility of the package, with just those couple of small little caveats that I mentioned earlier on. So that's it. This has been a long video. Hope you're still awake. Yeah, all I can say is that I really, really like this thing. I'm in a privileged position in that it was sent to me free of charge for review. So to actually shell out that sort of money, you know, you really do have to sort of consider things. So any of the flaws that were there that I see, that I wasn't able to overcome over the couple of weeks, because again, at the beginning, reverse threading, you know, some of these things, you know, they did put me off. But when I lived with it for a while, I just grew to like it. And I really, really do like it at this stage. And this is, you know, along with one or two other mods, you know, this is the top of my particular pile. Thanks for watching, guys. And we'll catch you again soon. Cheers.